Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I'm still in Scotland at my hotel. I'm just going to see, I've got all my mess, but I actually have a desk because this is like a student accommodation during the year, and there's a window where a lot of seagulls go. They squawk early in the morning. Yeah, I haven't been doing much today because I had a stomach flu, or something was not right with my stomach. I also had my period, so I was not doing well. I did go out, I did do certain things, but I was feeling awful the whole time. I ate an English breakfast, but that was like kind of stupid of me, but I felt like I had to do it today because tomorrow I have other plans. So yeah, I needed to get the English breakfast in before I leave. I never had an English breakfast before, so I'm glad I tried it. I did not go for the more intense version, the full Scottish breakfast, which has haggis and black pudding. I felt like it was enough meat and fat for the day with the stuff that's in the regular small English breakfast. It was small, but it was my brunch basically. Anyway, I don't understand why this wall has like a painted thing here. You know, it looks like there's a ceiling here, but it's not. It's actually a regular wall. Anyway, it was a design choice. I guess that it's for a certain sense of space. So I've been doing quite a lot, and I wanted to parse it into maybe 3 different videos. One of them that's just like everything that I've done, and another one which is all of the you know, the more fandom-y kind of part, and then the one that is more spooky video kind of thing. So I was thinking of talking about the fandom-y kind of part, because I won't be doing any fandom things tomorrow, which is my last day here. I am a big fan of Outlander, and I was a big fan of Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter was my special interest for a long time when I was a teenager, when I was around 15, which was when I was at my most depressed. And Harry Potter, like, it's ridiculous to say this, it seems, but Harry Potter saved my life. Like, I would think of myself in Hogwarts when I was thinking about death. And so I was thinking about like having friends in Hogwarts rather than in real life, because I didn't have any friends really. I had a few, but I would often have like one friend that was like I could talk deep with, and then basically no one else, and like everybody else on the very surface level. So having friends that I could count on, because they were always in my imagination, was important to me. Now, if we believe that I have autism, which we don't know yet, but you know, a lot of things on this trip kind of remind me that I am not normal. Okay, I'm not neurotypical. I don't know what it is, but you know, my experiences are different than a lot of other people's. Not to be like, oh, I'm so unique. It's like, it's actually a problem for me, you know. So being a tourist is kind of like, oh, that's just how my life is. I'm always perceived as an outsider. I'm always an outlander, right? A Sassenach in Scotland. I'm a Sassenach wherever I go. Even in my home countries, you know. I always never really quite fit in with the atmosphere. But so, anyway, Harry Potter was my special interest, which meant that I was obsessed with it. It would make me so happy, and I knew all the facts. And there was this game you could play online where you would have to find 200 names that are in Harry Potter. And I could name, and like they were very obscure names, like, you know, Rufus Scrimgeour, I don't know, I only read that name, I haven't actually heard it pronounced, but, you know, or, Poppy Pomfrey is, Madame Pomfrey is, the nurse at Hogwarts, you know, like, all those names, and I could name you 180 out of those 200. Like, I was almost there, and I think that I was really, really invested in this, you know. Then I found out about how actually bigoted and transphobic and racist J.K. Rowling actually is, and I went from worshipping her work and her as a person in a way, a little bit, to completely, you know, trying to shut that whole area of my brain off. So it's sad, but at the same time it's a positive thing in my growth, because it's sad in that I'm in Edinburgh, the birthplace of Harry Potter, you could say. Everything reminds me of Hogwarts, of Harry Potter themed stuff, and there are like a lot of shops where you can buy Harry Potter themed things, and a few years ago I would have lapped that up, you know. Maybe like 2018 was when 2018 to 2020 was around the time where I did this transition from like being completely into Harry Potter, then having it a little bit more of like an interest, and then a completely disengaging from it, because I don't want to be interested to such a level and contribute to the fame of something that I find so unethical. So I don't buy any Harry Potter merch. A friend bought me some Harry Potter merch, and I treasure that because, you know, I treasure the gift rather than like the actual the purchase, you know. It was the thought. It was like a chocolate frog keychain. It was really, really nice. So I kept that. But otherwise, I don't have any Harry Potter merch. I know that when I was small, I had like a backpack. Like every kid had a backpack of Harry Potter at that time. And I had like a Lego set that was Harry Potter. But as a teenager, I kind of had to make do with my imagination. I didn't have any merch. Anyway, why am I telling you guys all this? Well, because I'm now in the place that has all of this merch, and it has all of these things. Like, there are these coats of arms that remind you of like the houses of Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, you know. And there are these castles and churches that really remind me of the Hogwarts buildings, and there are all these filming locations, and there's the stuff that is very Scottish that reminds me of like Professor McGonagall in the books, who is very Scottish, and the things that they eat as well in the Harry Potter books is the stuff that you eat here, you know. And there's a lot. And I think I would have enjoyed it more when I was a teenager, coming here. Everything would have seemed so much more magical. But I think there's this sort of like loss of innocence here that I just see the Harry Potter stuff as like mass-produced merch, you know, that doesn't have all this meaning to me anymore, and I'm sitting there like, oh, you know, I want to enjoy this, but I can't. And I'm actually proud of myself for that, you know, like, I can actually detach myself from this really essential part of who I was as a teenager, you know. My friends knew me as like the obsessed with Harry Potter girl, you know. And I was almost my religion, you know. I was like so intense into it. But now I do not enjoy it as much. And so a lot of things are Harry Potter like here. And I can enjoy it, but from a distance, you know. And I can see a bigger, wider perspective and be like, huh, that reminds me of Harry Potter. How cool, you know. But it's not like, you know, the excitement that I would have. But what I'm happy about is that I was a little bit worried before this trip that I would have some kind of weird reaction to coming to Edinburgh because of this complicated thing I have with Harry Potter. But it's actually been surprisingly good. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I sort of balance in my emotions about Harry Potter right now. Because I've been so invested, and so I thought, like, what if I'm angry? What if I'm still very excited? Or my stance on this thing that was very important to me, what if I can't handle the change? And it was actually fine, you know? And so it is possible to have very different interests from what you had for a few years ago. It is possible to be another person and yet to still enjoy life, you know? It's like believing in Santa Claus, and then it's like, well, okay, so you don't believe in Santa Claus anymore, but you can still enjoy the magic of Christmas. So it's just in another way, you know? It's a more mature way, I guess. So there's that. I would recommend any Harry Potter fan to go to St Giles Cathedral. Or I would recommend anybody, not just Harry Potter fans. It has a lot of coats of arms, and there's a wooden part, like a wooden chapel, that is like really beautiful with it. I can smell the wood, like thinking about it, and it's like the varnish. They varnish it. I don't know how often they have to varnish it, but I mean they've done so for hundreds of years, and it's so well preserved. And there are all of these mottos, and like Gryffindor lions, you know, and ravens and well, not ravens, but like symbolic birds, unicorns, you know, flags, and it's a beautiful place, and it was free, you know. Out of all those places to go to, that one was free, So I would really recommend that. Also, there are all sorts of different references in Harry Potter to different names of people and places. So there is the Greyfriar Cemetery was a place where J.K. Rowling went and sought out names for her characters from that cemetery. And apparently that cemetery is where they filmed Godric's Hollow, where Tom Riddle, not Tom Riddle, where Harry's parents are buried in the last movie. And I think it's a beautiful place. The spooky Victorian. The whole of Edinburgh is very grey stone, Victorian. You know, it's winding streets. There's Cockburn Street, which is the reference for Diagon Alley, because it literally goes diagonally. And also, like, the little shops. There are these vintage shops and stores, and now most of them are taken up by chains, but there were really small boutiques. I went to the Armchair Cafe, Armchair bookstore, which is a place in Edinburgh that has tons of books from like the floor to the ceiling, and like it's not well organized, it's a mess, and I love it. Because, well, I am a little bit of a hoarder, and so like I recognize that space is like, oh, magic, you know. So there are these things that contribute to a certain atmosphere that I really like. I also eat scones, and you know, I'll imagine myself like, oh, you know, being a student at Hogwarts, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, this is the sort of thing that I would eat, and this is the sort of thing that I would do, and all that. And the people speaking Scottish, you know, it's beautiful, you know. And I'm so glad. I mean, Scottish people are very patriotic, and I'm kind of glad that they are, you know. They have a lot to be proud of, you know. Their heritage is wonderful. And I like the Scottish music and all that. But so that's about Harry Potter. When it comes to Outlander, which is my other interest in this place, I guess, I have read the 3 first books. I have seen the first 6 seasons. Then I got bored. I got bored with the other seasons because after a while, you know, many years passed. After a while, like, the series is not as much about Jamie and Claire, the main couple. It starts talking about their kids and then their grandkids, you know, and it's like, I'm not as interested with that, you know, unfortunately. But I really liked Outlander's premise. Of like, Claire is an army nurse in World War II, and then she goes through the stones. Well, she's married there. Then she goes through the stones 200 years back and meets Scottish Jamie. And then they kind of, oh no, they are forced to marry each other. And she's already married, but she can't tell them that she's, she says that she's a widow, but actually she is married in the future as well. And spoiler, she decides to stay in the past and not go back to her husband. Then later on, other things happen, right? But in the first book, that's what happens. And it's a really romantic story and such. And I find that Jamie and Claire are very dysfunctional in certain ways. But it's the only heterosexual romance I can actually stand and really root for. They're a great couple, and they go through so much together, and there's so much about emotions in there that it really grips my heart, and I really love Outlander. So I went on an Outlander tour, and it was a bus tour with a Scottish tour guide. I did not understand a lot of what he said, but I tried. And we went first to Falkland, which is the filming location that it's supposed to be Inverness in the show, but it's actually Falkland, which is a little village. It was a nice village where we had a little bit too much time there, so I actually walked around there was a little road out to the fields, and I went to the fields, and then I saw a little black cat, which was really cute. And yeah, it was, there are a lot of sheep in the area and such. It's in the kingdom of Fife, which is where a lot of kings are buried, if I understand that right. And then we went to Culross, which was the best place on the trip, I would say. Culross is Cranesmuir in the Outlander series. Cranesmuir is, basically the village in the book. And it has these wonderful old daub buildings. And there's a garden there, which in Outlander is like a medicinal garden where Claire goes and finds all of her ingredients for her concoctions to heal people, because that's what she does. She heals people in the past with her knowledge of the future, and the garden was like a hanging garden. I couldn't actually go into the garden because there was a guy who was painting, like doing outside painting. What an idyllic thing to do, and he was like painting, and it was like the one sunny day of the year, really hot, like it was 25 degrees Celsius. I don't know how crazy that is in Scotland, but so he was painting, and there were bumblebees around him, and I couldn't capture the moment, so I didn't take a picture, but it's like the sun was hitting just right, and it was really beautiful. And then I went to the Abbey, which was higher up, and lower down there were people selling. There was like a market because it's Sunday, and I ate ice cream, a caramel ice cream with the honeycomb pieces. That was local, so the honeycomb pieces were really crunchy, and I remembered of, like, in Outlander there's a lot of focus on bees. There's an actual book that I haven't read, but called Tell It to the Bees, and basically the old folk thought is that you tell your bees the important life events of your life. And yeah, so I think that bees are important. Well, they're important in real life, but they're important in stories as well. So, these are all the sorts of, like, theories, things that pop into my head when I'm on the tour. I think that probably people of other types might think of, like, this honeycomb tastes really good, or something. But I was more like, what is the significance of the bees? and then they were playing music on the square, and it was really nice. And you could also go down a pier like over these like wetlands, and it was really, really nice. I felt like, wow, this is what summer should be. And then we left and we went to Linlithgow, which is a castle where Mary, Queen of Scots, lived. And it was used as for Wentworth Prison, which unfortunately well, a lot of torture and terrible things happen in there, and that's where Jamie is imprisoned. And it is kind of spooky going in there, you know, like a lot of steps and dark areas and old stone. So that was really nice to see. A lot of it is just ruin, but there's a middle fountain area that was shown in the movies. It has a unicorn, like everything in Scotland has a unicorn. But there's also mermaid and like all these symbols on this fountain. Then I went down and looked at the loch, which there was a swan with a broken neck, which was sad. He was like trying to peck at the water, but like his neck was like twisted in some weird way. But there were a lot of other birds. There were baby coots. They're very fuzzy. I don't know if I managed to take a picture, but they were tiny little things. And they, like everybody was having a super great day because it was sunny, like the one sunny day a year, you know. Then we went to Doune Castle, which I didn't go into because we only had 45 minutes, which I'm pretty pissed off about, actually. But Doune Castle was used as Castle Leoch in the Outlander, and Castle Leoch is where the Mackenzies in this series live. So I wanted to see the hall and everything, but I figured like in 45 minutes, just getting to the castle from the bus took us maybe like 10 minutes. So I figured like, no, that this isn't going to work. But that castle is also used in Monty Python for the knights who say Ni, I think, live there. Or maybe not. It's a castle of you know, in the movies. I think it's also used for Game of Thrones for something. I forget what. You know, it's a pretty nice looking castle from the outside. But instead I went to the river and I saw all of these different kinds of trees, and it was a mill. It was an old mill that was like vegetation had grown over it and such. And there was a quiet bridge there, and I just took it easy, you know. And then we passed the Kelpies, which are like big statues of these sea creatures, like Nessie, kind of like horses of the sea. They have this huge statue right a motorway of these horse heads. So we passed by those quite a few times actually, because it wasn't like a circular route. We went back and forth. And then we went to what's its name? Midhope Castle, which is Lallybroch in Outlander. But it's only like the outside. The inside is empty, so you couldn't go into it. It's basically just the outside. there's basically just a gate and a house. There's nothing else. There's no courtyard or anything. It's pretty bare. But I took all the nice pictures of me like wistfully waiting for Jamie Fraser to come back from the war or something, you know, sitting on the steps of the castle. So I like to immerse myself and like think of myself like, oh, I'm as part of the story. And that's something I've always done. I've always gone and thought like, oh, you know, where would I fit into this story, you know, or it's rarely that I pretend to be one of the characters. It's more like I am my own character and somehow I fit into this story, you know? Like I would pretend that I was a student at Hogwarts, but that I wasn't a character in particular. I was myself, you know, but in Hogwarts, a different version of myself. Or I'd be a different version of myself in Outlander. You know, I don't imagine myself as Claire or as Jamie Fraser. I imagine like Ingrid, you know, maybe under a different alias or something in that story. So it was really nice to get my Outlander kick. Oh, also, Culross was the birthplace of St Mungo, which ties in nicely with Harry Potter because St Mungo is the healing saint and he is that's the name of the magical hospital in Harry Potter. So yeah, that's kind of it about my two big fandoms that are based in Scotland. Now, I also, you know, have other tangents. I do like, I used to like Monty Python, and also I like Sherlock Holmes, even though it isn't Scottish. It is kind of the tartan, you know, all that. So I kind of also imagine myself a little bit like in the Sherlock Holmes stories when I'm around here. I think it's so it is a pretty magical experience, this whole thing, just fandom wise. I do wish I could have gone on like a longer trip to the Highlands and such, maybe to see Glenfinnan, the Harry Potter bridge, you know, where the Hogwarts Express goes. But that would have taken a day trip, so no, I wasn't going to do that. And you know, just seeing the Scottish Highlands would have been great, but we'll just call this my Lowlands trip, I guess. Maybe one day in the future I can go on the Highlands trip. But yeah, so that's all I had to say about that. That was quite a long video, but have a great day, everybody. Bye.